So good afternoon, everyone. This is Audrey Russo, President and CEO of the Pittsburgh Technology Council. And we have a great guest today, like we do each and every day. And in a moment, I'll more formally introduce Justin McElhattan. But before we get started, I want to thank everyone not only for joining us, but just to comply with the rules of the road here, which include we've muted your microphones, and we have a chat section, and that is only for asking questions of our guests, not selling your wares, not self-promoting anything. It's really just to focus on our guests. Joined here by Jonathan Kirsting, each and every day, Vice President of Marketing and Media at the Tech Council, and leading all of our storytelling focuses. So he's going to be keeping an eye on the chat and facilitate ways for us to get engaged with our speaker today. We have a big shout out to Huntington Bank. After a year, they've been our partners in doing so many things in terms of experimentation. And I guess after a year, it's probably not experimentation. It's somehow we've created something that has moved us into what's the next year ahead and how we're going to keep people connected. It's very exciting. And Huntington Bank has been just a tremendous partner with us. And then there's 40 by 80. You see that on the screen there. And that's the longitude and latitude of Pittsburgh, but more important, that's the wholly owned subsidiary of the Pittsburgh Tech Council. And that's where we focus on work that's tied to apprenticeships. You're going to hear more about that coming up, as well as helping entrepreneurs. That's our charitable arm of the Tech Council. So without any further ado, I want to introduce Justin McElhattan. He's the president of Industrial Scientific, which is a company that's wholly owned by Fortive, but he's going to talk more about that himself. And Justin, actually, what we just found out was that Justin was on the show 1 year ago today. Totally coincidental, but we wanted to make sure that we were checking in with how things were going and to give sort of an annual update, or maybe it's an annual State of the Union of Industrial Scientific. But I'm thrilled that Justin's here. He is someone who's a deep friend to the tech community, and he is someone who has built, along with his family, an incredible company and an incredible story, and just someone that the region needs to shine the light on. So I want to welcome Justin. Thank you for joining us today. And we cannot believe that it was actually a year ago, which is quite funny. So how are you? First, let's say welcome, Justin, and how are you? How are you holding up?
I'm doing better than I deserve, Audrey. And I want to say thanks to the Tech Council for what you've done this last year. I think these business as usual series, what a great touch point, and really adaptability of business. That's been something that we've all talked about. And this is so much value that you've brought. Adapted and brought value. So I'm very great, a lot of gratitude for that. And I'm sure everybody else does as well. So thank you. Well,
thank you. So how are you doing? Before we usually start, I don't know if you remember, but this is what we do. How is Justin? How are you holding up 1 year after we saw you?
Like everybody, it's been a tough year. I think we've been, we as a business and a family, I think we're very blessed with through the year, given the circumstances. That's why I say better than I deserve. We've seen, when you look at our business, and I know that every company is impacted in different ways by this, but as a leader of a business, you're suddenly the stakes, this last year, the stakes have gotten much higher, and you're concerned about things much lower on the hierarchy of needs, the day-to-day safety and health of your people in a very material way. And, I'm so grateful to the people in our business who've been able to keep our customers up and operational, and really to do it in a safe way. We've had 12 sites around the world open and operational through, without missing a beat, with lots of adjustment and lots of work. And controls work, all of the precautions we take of staying 6 feet away, and we've built a lot of barriers here in our building out in Robinson and in our other sites around the world, and people wear masks, and we've not had any workplace spread COVID through the year, so very, very proud of how our people have responded, and just made a number of adaptations over the last year. So
But safety is your business.
Yeah,
Right?
yeah,
So-
we talk about, if we have a vision in Industrial Scientific. We say we're dedicating our career to eliminating death on the job by 2050. That when you look at that problem statement, there's 300,000 or 400,000 people killed in accidents each year, and there's about 2 million people who die due to occupational illnesses. And we are hoisting that as our problem statement that we own, and we are working to do things that create inflection points in fatality rates and illness rates and other things that contribute to people not coming home, alive or their whole selves at the end of the workday. And one of the big changes we've seen this last year, I think I talked about this a year ago, but I feel like for years Industrial Scientific has tried to wave the banner and say, this is a critical component of your work, right? That keeping your people safe and healthy is a strategically important thing. And I think too many times companies have viewed this as just something that we have to do. We have to comply. And in a very rapid way over the last year, we've seen businesses realize out of necessity the strategic importance of keeping people safe and healthy, to the point that when you think about the ESG world and sustainability, how public companies are beginning to view this, what a great tailwind to get to shake this loose so that we get the visibility around the importance of those aspects of how companies work and how they view their people and the health of their folks. So that's been one positive this year, that kind of, we've been shouting this for so long. I think we're finally getting, that's been something that's carried the voice very, very, very broadly.
So tell everyone, remind everyone here about Industrial Scientific.
Yeah, Industrial Scientific, we have about 1,300 employees in about 20 countries around the world. We're headquartered in Pittsburgh. We were founded here and grew out of a mining. Mining used to be 100% of our business. It's now about 4 or 5%. But we really do two main things with the businesses. Industrial Scientific is a brand. The products we offer are about gas detection, personal monitoring, sensing, live monitoring of people in critical operations. If somebody has a heart attack and goes down, how do we enable notification if they're a lone worker? Applications like that. We preserve human life in some of the most dangerous workplaces in the world. And so that's what Industrial Scientific does. We knew that wasn't going to be enough to chase our vision down. And so we've made a number of acquisitions. One of the bigger acquisitions we made in 2019 was a company based out of Toronto called Intelex. Intelex is an environmental health, safety, and quality enterprise software company. It's about 500 people delivering EHSQ enterprise SaaS solutions. And so applications of that range from greenhouse gas emissions reporting, automation, through to incident management at some of the largest companies in the world. If there's a health or safety incident, risk assessments, those kind of things, and supplier quality. So it gives us the opportunity to touch, so to speak, the boardroom. And I think a large part of what we are going to do, it's kind of a two-pronged approach, that keeping people safe at work is really, really critical, but also setting expectations for supply chains, what businesses will tolerate in their supply chains, from human trafficking, slavery, conflict minerals, and those kind of things, through to scheduling. Those are all contributing factors to safe, healthy, clean, efficient workplaces. And so that's kind of the body of work that Intelex does. And so those are the two main centers of gravity within Industrial Scientific.
So given that this whole year has just sort of exploded in terms of innovation around safety, or people thinking about, safety, whether it's contactless, design, or anything in terms of alerts, have you seen any new verticals?
Yeah, we've seen verticals going more to small, medium business. We tend at Intelex, that part of the business, to serve a lot of, big enterprise customers. We've seen places like smaller municipalities suddenly needing to deal with this, with things that they hadn't thought about before. And managing, exposure trackers. So we very quickly brought out an exposure tracker and tracing system that customers are using. And scheduling, we do work with a lot of big airlines in terms of if somebody's exposed, and working that backwards and then forward scheduling. So those pains that big companies, I think, were in a high state of readiness for. Suddenly the little town that that you might live in is dealing with that with a staff of 15 people. And so that was one impact we saw. The other was a desire for more automation. Just how do suddenly we're doing a lot more, and how do we do that in a more automated way? We've always talked about digitization as an enabler for automation, and I think that pathway has really accelerated this year as well.
And so do you think ahead that there'll be some application across some new verticals for you? Are you seeing that?
Yeah, we're seeing that already. Yeah. So I think people care about people both at Industrial Scientific and Intellects. People care about where their people are. The accountability around that is something that's that we're hearing a lot of interest in, and seeing it, and connecting it up to a broader. I think we're having conversations at a level in the business that we hadn't before, and this gets up to the broad ESG kind of sustainability messaging that companies are wanting to. They're getting pressed by their shareholders. You're seeing this in private equity. We're going after the public companies and doing turns, buying public companies and doing a PE turn because they're going to introduce sustainability and things like that. So they're hungry for capabilities to execute at a world-class level, maybe is the best way to say it.
So 3 years ago, Industrial Scientific was essentially acquired by Fortive. You want to talk about that and remind people?
Yeah, so we had Industrial Scientific was a private family-owned business. The company was private. Family took it, or it was public. Family took it private in 1999, and for 18 years, Industrial Scientific operated as a family-owned business, which was wonderful. And as we came into 2016 and 2017, we really began to think hard about what the true potential of this business was, and were we the best owners? I loved being an owner. Our family, this is still part of who we are, right? And it's hard to, but we realized that we probably weren't the best owners to help the business reach its full potential. We had a number of conversations, went through a process looking at strategic acquirers, and ended up with a company called Fortive, which is a spinoff of Danaher, if you've heard of Danaher. And one of the things that we really loved about what Fortive brought to the table was that it was two things that Fortive brought to Industrial Scientific. It was Fortive Business Systems, which is a very disciplined operating system around growth, innovation, and lean. And secondly was M&A capital. This is a company that's grown aggressively through acquisitions over the years. In these 3 years, we've made 3 acquisitions, and been able to deploy a lot of capital, not only to the acquisitions, but to growth accelerators, which is part of the FBS process of experimentation. And so, it's been a great marriage. Fortive continues to transform its portfolio, but it's a Fortune 500 business, and it's been a completely different lens for me personally to learn, to learn its scale, what life is like in this, and it's been a very good thing for Industrial Scientific. So,
and going through an acquisition with that kind of support.
Yeah, there's great support, from Fortive. The business, it's an interesting model. I always tell people I still have all the same direct reports I did when I was CEO of Industrial Scientific, but there's, and Fortive is about 20,000 employees across all the businesses. They own Fluke and Tektronix, Accruent, Gordian, companies like that, but about 100 of them have Fortive business cards. So it's a very light corporate group, but the people that are at corporate are supporting with strategy, corporate development, and M&A support and things like that. So it's nice to be able to plug into that that power source on some of these deals.
So what, let's think about this. You're in a beautiful facility that's out headed towards.
Nobody's here.
There. So that's what I want to talk about.
Yeah.
Nobody's there. What's your plan? What's your plan?
I shouldn't say nobody's here. We typically have 400 to 500 people at One Lifeway, which is our facility along the Parkway. And we're down to about 110 right now. And the people that are here are, for the most part, producing goods or, in manufacturing or doing testing or design, where they need to be in the building. We could get into the whole return to work thing. We have some thoughts around that, but we went through one phase last year where we were going to start doing a phased in approach that people that wanted to come back to work could at 1/10 levels. We were doing 10%, waiting a month or so, and then trying it again. And we got through 2 phases of that before we stopped it. So, we're looking at this year and trying to decide how we want to do it. We have some guideposts, right? That certainly we're supporting everybody to get vaccines with PTO. We'll pay for it. We'll make sure there's no barriers and encouragement. We've stopped short of mandating it, but we're strongly encouraging people to get the vaccine. But I think that flexibility, I'm not going to bring anything profound here, right? Flexibility is here to stay. I think that our brains have been so rewired over the last year that work is never going to look like it did before. And that's creating all kinds of interesting dynamics. I don't know, Audrey, if you've read that recent report from Microsoft, just put out a really compelling document about, are we ready for hybrid work? But I think that a couple of anchors that we're really hooking onto. One is we want to be able to offer a flexible workplace, right? That is we're likely not to mandate unless you need to be here. Mm-hmm. So that's one. We want to embrace that flexibility. 2, there's 2 more thoughts I have. The second one, we are now, like so many other businesses, optimized around remote meetings. Mm-hmm. And the meetings that we're going to have in the next whatever X number of months, where we have some people in person mm-hmm. and some people remote, we're going to be like, this stinks. This is awful. And so I think figuring out what the world looks like when you have teams who like to meet, who need to be together from a creativity standpoint, creation, mm-hmm. but then have remote people. I think those are going to be optimized around teams, right? Each team is going to have to work through their own cycle and what days they want to be in, and we want to support that. But I think it's going to take a while to get the rhythm where we're not feeling frustrated with somebody's on the screen over here, but you and I are in person. We have 3 people here, and it's so much better when you're optimized around one kind of meeting modality. Mm-hmm. And I think the other, just to conclude, the other thing that's really on my mind, if you rewind to the last year in kind of mid-March through mid-May, the world acted largely, it didn't feel like it at the time, but it acted largely in unison mm-hmm. In terms of response. Companies responded, states responded, countries responded in a very similar way. Emerging over the last year, we felt pain in how people view emerging from that. And I think that pain is likely to get even worse in the next year, where we're going to have massive disparity between how people think about when families are comfortable coming out of doing things. And I'm paying a lot of attention to that on where people are emotionally and psychologically as companies try to feel their way. Our company in particular tries to feel its way back to dealing with a whole lot of people who, as I said before, have had their brains rewired and are terrified in some instances and are not afraid. It's just this massive distribution of standard deviation on that. So, well,
listen, leadership has changed, mm-hmm. right? I mean, so your role as a leader has changed. You now have to, if you want to run an incredible company, you have to pay attention to things that you might not have had to pay attention to before. Yep. And it's almost like mass customization. when we moved in the 90s, we moved into this whole model where you could do mass production that was customized. I think that's where we're moving to.
Yeah.
And leadership, the skills that leaders have are definitely not the same skills that were required even a year ago. And, my hat's off to you with trying to wrestle with these complexities, because you're across so many different countries. I was just reflecting with Brian Kennedy that we were in China visiting you. I think it was in Shanghai, right? It was like 7-8 years ago.
Yep.
at your facility there, right? And I'm thinking, not only do you have to care about, safety and your people and the leadership, what about the supply chain disruption? What have you seen over this past year? Because that's something that, boards are wrestling with as well. What does it mean? And I don't want to use the word reshoring, but it certainly, the Suez Canal the other day.
Yeah. That's a massive. Well, we do our production of our products in 2 primary sites, Pittsburgh and then Shanghai. And over the last 2 years, we've been executing a strategy that is really to position we call it China for China, right? It's a big market. Asia is a big market for us. China is a big market for us. And so we've really repurposed the China facility to serve China, and tariffs were impactful on that. And so, we have actually, and watch, as soon as I say this, we'll have some big part outage, but we have had, I think, given some of the problems I've heard talking to peers at other manufacturing companies, we have not had the magnitude of issues. That's so this has not been kind of an
issue for you.
Not been at an existential level of criticality. We've been able to keep our sites operational. Our tiered supplier or component suppliers have been able to keep us in business and do well. And we've done things in terms of getting multiple vendors on or suppliers on components. So that work has paid off a bit, but.
So it might not have hit you like it's hit so many other companies.
Yeah, I talked to a lot of companies that it's, they're feeling it very sharply, and shortages and demand that's way out of the realm of, of predictability. We were not impacted. So I think that's been a big factor in that, is that you get these wild swings in demand that
right.
Up 300% or down 90%. Right. We've not had that kind of, we've been in a much tighter band. So.
It's great. So what about companies who want to get involved in working with industrial? They think they have a solution. They think they have a way to help you with your innovation. Is there a pathway?
Yeah, I think, there's a couple of pathways. I think one is, we have a partner, we do partnerships with companies, both at Intellex and Industrial Scientific. We'll partner with companies on iNet and our connected offering. So those partner ecosystems are the primary way that we deliver value. This all starts with the customer pain, right? Every bit of innovation. I love the Eric Ries quote. It all starts with somebody saying it's way too hard to do this, right? And that's the foundation of innovation. And so, when we have that, and when we find somebody that can help us, partner with us to do that, we embrace those opportunities. So, but it has to have that fundamental, solving pain for a customer piece.
Right. Do you have an innovation center that sort of rests in your organization?
We do, yeah. So we have our R&D teams, and one of the things that we do with Fortive Business System, one of the big areas of focus that has been on the last couple of years is around innovation. It's a growth accelerator process, and if you look kind of at the dream, develop, deliver, kind of the 3 big phases of innovation. We actually have a team in it right now around digital permitting, but it's a very accelerated 3-month 4-person team they are immersed. We pull them out of the business, we throw them in there, and they are trained for 2 weeks, and then they're doing upwards of 15 VOC calls for a number of weeks. It's incredibly disciplined and intensive around that. And you kill half the ideas that come out of it, but it's been really an interesting way to have a repeatable innovation process. And so that's been something we've been building capability around.
So just sort of on a personal / professional level, how have you over this last year think you've changed as a leader? And and what's in store for you ahead? Because we talked about working remotely, we talked about flexibility, we talked about sustainability, we talked about verticals. That's a lot in a year.
I'll say maybe a couple of things about how I've changed. Number one, I have a level of gratitude for our people and what they do every day and how they do it it's very different. It's deeper and different. It maybe is the simplest way to say it. We have a lot of people that are doing, that are supporting critical work our customers doing, sitting at their kitchen tables, getting their kids through. What an incredibly difficult way to do that. So so it's gratitude. I think I'm a bit more aware. I don't know if anybody in my company would say so, but I hope I'm a bit more aware about the need to focus on the critical few. That we are able to absorb a level of complexity at a baseline. And I think when human beings are under stress, and we're all under stress, we all have kids who are not getting graduate, whatever it is, or your parents who are, whatever it is, we're under stresses in different ways. Everybody. And I think helping people clarify what we need to be working on and keeping things very simple from that is really, really important. And I think that will be ever more important moving forward.
And so how do you take care of yourself?
I love my job, right? So that's I am very fortunate to have a job that I love, and I love the people I work with. I exercise when I can. I'm intentional about getting enough activity in my life and those kind of things. And I have a wonderful wife who keeps me in check and keeps me focused on what to get stressed about, and what not to get stressed about. So it's yes, we all do our best, right? And
so you go into the office every day?
I do. I worked remotely for the first, I was going into the office maybe one day a week, and more kind of like, I want to be present with our team here. And I think from a very pragmatic standpoint, I feel that I'm more positively impactful in the office than I am out of the office. We have team members here. We are following controls and doing things, and I think that's so I've made that decision to work from work, and that's been a good thing.
So do you think there's anything else that I might have overlooked in terms of the conversation here?
No, we touched on a lot. I think I think this is going to be. I'm incredibly hopeful. It's been great to see the acceleration of the rollouts of vaccines and things like that. And as we kind of at a really interesting inflection point where I'm not sure people know how to feel. There's a lot of conflicting sentiment in the news, and I think if we kind of rise up and look at the steps that we're taking as a society, I think they're in in the right direction from a public health perspective. I think all of us, any chance I get to talk about grace and empathy towards each other, I think the world needs a heavy dose of that. And, we're trying to exert that. I've had this long-standing war against using the word resources when we talk about people. I have no idea who came up with this absurd notion that we're going to call people resources. I heard it at business school. We were talking about, we got to put some resources on. I'm like, what are you talking about? Who talks like that?
It's like dirt, right? It's like dirt.
Yeah. It's dehumanizing. It's not how we talk as people. And so, that's been something that I fought that battle, years ago in Industrial Scientific, I think we've largely quelled that. I've picked it up in the I've been more emboldened and things like that. So, but empathy towards others and understanding, I think, is really, really.
I feel the
fundamental.
same way about the word users. I'm like, users, what's a
Yeah.
user? Is that, they're people, right?
Yeah.
Well, Justin, thank you so much for joining us 1 year later and getting a catch up with you.
Yeah.
Wait, if you want to reach out to Justin, I think he's on LinkedIn. There's a website all about their company. There's ways he's active in the community and has just been a great ambassador for Pittsburgh and beyond. So I can't thank you enough, Justin, for joining us.
Thank you, Audrey. Thanks for all you're doing. You and the team.
Great.
Tech Council are doing great work. Thank you.
Thank you. And then I'm going to lean over to Jonathan and say, what's up?
Well, Audrey, I'm going to sleep early tonight. I need extra rest. And you should too, because tomorrow is our big 1 year celebration of business as usual. We have Susie Shipley from Huntington Bank, our partner with business as usual since day one, is stopping by to interview you. So you got to study up on all your answers for tomorrow. But even better yet, if you join the call tomorrow, we're giving away 6 $100 giftias to the Big Burrito Group restaurants, Eaton Park, Primanti's, or Sheets. The winners will get to pick which restaurants they want to go.
That's fun.
All of these restaurants have been on business as usual in the past. We're trying to support the local community. Plus, we're using Giftia, a local platform, in order to make that happen. It's going to be so much fun.
That's great. Okay, well, we'll see everyone here tomorrow. Thank you, Justin McElhattan, and to your team at Industrial Scientific. Have a great day.
Get your sleep.